it and then another article, and I'm like, I think I understand this. But it's also part, like, if I had only watched one, I think I would have a better understanding, but everybody's talking about different shit. So, like, instead of being focused, it's like, and what about this?
What have you learned? Like, what stood out to you then?
So my understanding is, like, so for a long time, the original OGL let whoever just use pretty much almost everything from Dungeons and Dragons if it wasn't like super copywritten, like the things that I think that they made up specifically. So I don't think you, like, Pathfinder, let's say, can't use like Illithid, but they can use, the basic rule system. They can use like all sorts of shit.
Everything that's in the SRD that's available, basically.
Yeah.
You can monetize.
And they can monetize, which is huge. And it's interesting because, like, that came out in 2000. So 22 years, 23 years, depending if it was, early January. This thing's been running smooth, no problem.
Well, the problem is that Wizards doesn't get to make any money off of it.
Yes. So now I talked about it in a recent video, in their effort to like monetize, or because they think D&D is under monetized. I'm sure they see this as a reason. Okay, these other things are siphoning off money that should be ours. I think that that's a flawed thought process.
Mm-hmm.
Because if somebody's buying Pathfinder, if Pathfinder's not there, they're not necessarily going to buy D&D. And if somebody is buying things from like Cobalt Press, they're, again, not necessarily going to buy it from D&D. So it's weird. It's like a way to suppress like competition, but it's not. I don't think it necessarily like drives that competition back to the source. Probably a percentage of it, sure.
But it's also like those third-party publishers are also responsible for helping the growth of and continuing the growth of the game.
So I read something somewhere, because again, I read a whole bunch of stuff. Somebody likened it to Bethesda and Skyrim. So Bethesda said something about it got, I don't know. This is according to this person who I don't know his comment. Got shitty about like, hey, we don't make any money from these mods. It's like, yeah, but without the mods, no one's playing Skyrim anymore. Like, except Mark.
It's the only reason for the longevity of the game.
I haven't even started it yet.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for you to
I'm super excited for you.
I don't know. I haven't started it yet because I'm debating streaming it. Since I've never played before.
Yeah, that could work.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
But the only reason, like, I go back to Skyrim once a year maybe, because I'll read an article about like, oh, if you get these 5 mods, it completely changes the game, and now you're in Middle Earth and there's a 20, you can play 20 minutes of new content. And I'm like, hell yeah, I'll do that for 20 minutes. And I bought Skyrim on like 6 different platforms. And the reason I bought it the last 2 times, because it was on Steam instead of like my Xbox, so I could put mods on it. So it is like those things breathe life into the thing that they're, augmenting. And without them, Skyrim's going to sell 1 million copies or whatever, and then die. And Skyrim came out in 2011. Like, without that, like, again, without mods, you don't have the longevity. So
hold on a second. You said something about the life. It's the community specifically that is that lifeblood. Like that's exactly. I think that's, we need to underscore that point.
So, and a lot of stuff that for like Dungeons and Dragons specifically. I mean, we can keep the Skyrim. It's a labor of love. Like, people love that game. They spend a ton of their own time building these mods or building, whole campaigns, building for free. Like, no one's going to pay you to do that up front. Maybe you can sell it later. And again, with mods, you're not allowed. But like, it's all labor of love. We're all just like creative people. We want to breathe life into this thing that we love. It feels so tone deaf to like stamp that out.
Yeah. Well, that depends on whose ears you're trying to ring.
For sure.
Because I feel like a lot of that just sucks because a lot of what might change will suck because, like, you know, obviously it seems to me like things just get more and more corporate overlordy, where it's like I can see the only way this makes sense. I should say this in a logical way and think it through before I start talking. The only way it makes sense to play it this way, because I agree with you, this is a bad way to do it, is if you have somehow convinced a bunch of people who have skin in the game that this will be a quick way to squash all that money back to us.
Yeah.
But it won't. Because you don't make the modules that I'm playing.
100%.
You don't provide that service. So you're squashing it for no good reason, except it's I think one of those corporate stockholder pull the wools over your eyes because you don't understand the market that you've invested in.
Yeah.
I think it's very highly contributable to that, Mark.
Yes. And I saw another comment that said pretty much specifically that, like, if Cobalt Press puts out, you know, new adventures, new shit all the time, they're churning stuff out. If you squash that, and they're not doing it, Wizards of the Coast is not going to pick that slack up. So those new interesting things that keep people coming back isn't there now. And
then
if you go to Pathfinder, you try new things because, like, you're hungry for novelty. Like, you're hungry for something new.
The smart play would have been which I don't think is like apparent to me. The smart play would have been to start rolling out your own content, not make the entire fandom angry at you.
Yeah.
And then maybe once you have a system made up where you can actually put out the volume that the hobby is craving for, then you can say, well, we're going to do a licensing play. You guys can still do your Etsy stuff. You can still do, you know, your Gen Con exclusive, you know, everyone has, you know, like compatible with the world's most favoritist role-playing game. Like, you can still do all that edgy, like, touching our stuff without taking it kind of thing. Or like, or even just like, it's the internet day and age, and you're gonna force us to subscribe to something online anyway. Make that an option. Can indie people get a cheap license? But they didn't even do that. The play is, we are going to destroy the ecosystem that feeds us, which is silly.
Yeah, and it's just such a, I don't know, because, like, there was something I read that, like, in the original signed in 2000, it was only about, like, printable, like, PDFs, basically. So they had no language, period, in any of these things about, like, videos, about people making, you know, podcasts, because all of these things are new. So, like, okay, I get you have to reevaluate because it's been 22 years. But yeah, it really does just feel, it's just a cash grab. Like, and this is exactly what
a tone deaf cash grab.
It really is. And it's exactly what I was worried about when that last thing came out, where they said that D&D's under monetized and we're going to look for new revenues or new avenues to, like, onboard people to basically spend money.
Yeah. I naively thought more books. Yay.
Right. So that's the thing. If you want to beat Cobalt Press, if you want to beat Pathfinder, put out more good shit. Like, that's how you beat them. You outcompete them.
Right. And the other thing is, what I keep wondering is, I know there's the difference between what is effective and what is, you know, what a lawyer needs you to do.
Yeah.
But, like, this won't even work. Like,
yeah,
it's not going to do anything.
Too. That's the other
because
thing.
It will work in hurting a lot of people who produce content on a professional level, but it's not going to, I have Steamforged Games modules. I'm still going to run them. Like, nice try. Now I'm just annoyed.
Right.
We're still going to homebrew shit.
And it is,
so like,
it's going to become a game of whack-a-mole too. Like,
yeah.
A new thing's going to pop up, sell some shit. They'll have to bang. And like, it's just, you're going to keep having to do that. And like,
they'll be spending more on litigation than they are making.
100%. So yes, that's exactly what I was getting at. How much are you spending on litigation versus how much of that, like, revenue you missed is coming in? And then how much, like, ill will? There's a million different systems to play. Like if you keep being the like
are you aware that
right? Like we could all just go to Pathfinder. We could all go to Hero of the Week or Monster of the Week or name your thing.
We are well into the golden age.
Bill has the rules memorized. I don't need to go anywhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I don't. It is like because in this day and age with like the amount of information like your average consumer has. Like, do I want to keep giving my money to them now? Like,
it's a very fair question.
They've spent a lot of that like goodwill that they've built up over, the past 40 years, whatever it's been.
I mean, I'm also curious too how much of this is Hasbro's tendrils that have, kind of weaved their way into this is because again, like Wizards itself, the company I think does understand the community a little bit better. And at least I don't think they would be as tone deaf, but this definitely feels like more of a big corporate. Like my dad worked for Hasbro for mainly his career. So and they've done
that's such a my dad works at Nintendo move, but it's actually true.
But
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he worked at Kenner first, and then Hasbro acquired Kenner.
I didn't. Oh, that totally makes sense. I never put that together.
Yeah, because Kenner was in Cincinnati at the time. So, because Kenner was who had the original Star Wars license, the original Star Wars movies license.
Hell yeah!
The main reason Hasbro wanted to acquire them.
Yeah.
Anyways, but their tactics in terms of how they treat their employees, how they'll treat competitors. This is a hallmark corporate move. So
it's a strong arm.
Yeah, I mean, it is also like to be if you're executive at Hasbro and you're looking at your IPs and you have an IP that's under monetized that has a whole bunch of like copycat stuff out there, like you don't do that with Magic the Gathering. Like people aren't, right? I don't know. Like people aren't printing fake Magic cards and like having their own Magic. Do they? Like I don't know.
I mean, but not like you have. I don't know about Magic because I'm not heavy into Magic anymore, but there's a lot of other games I know of where the fan community makes their own spin-offs and all kinds of stuff.
Is it similar? Are they built off like the same?
No, I mean that's like the ones I know of are without any permission at all. They're just literally like infringement, which like is that is valuable in this day and age. You're never going to convince a corporate attorney that that's the case. But there are plenty of times where people like Disney and other big companies purposeful, like they know they can search Etsy too, guys.
Yeah,
like,
right.
They know that you're making stuff with their IP, but there is a point where the fans are just, I don't know. It feels more personal because of that, because there's so many other people who are willing to just be like, well, we know you're just celebrating us and you're not trying to do us a massive amount of harm in some way. And there's a good faith that you are this give and take in the modern era. But,
that's a good point.
Everyone kind of disagrees on how that economy works, though. You know, there's no rules for it.
It does make like the brand more personal than a conglomerate's going to be able to make it feel. Like, I don't want to get in trouble, but Billy printed us these dice holders and they've got the damn D&D logo on there. Like, he didn't design it, but he printed it. And like, but I don't know if Wizards is making this.
Right. Well, I've got like my D&D books up here. I've got like a book holder and it's the D&D. It's just like a simple metal book holder that's 3D cut with the ampersand.
The dragon. That's cool.
Wizards doesn't make that, and I doubt they ever will. Like, so like, how can I get this if you're not going to make it? And you've closed off everybody else from...
Yeah. I don't know. It's such an interesting... I feel like they've lost so much capital recently.
Yeah. And it's like if someone makes a Dungeons and Dragons fan film and puts it on YouTube, would you slap them on the wrist with a lawsuit, or would you be like, or would you post it to the official Dungeons and Dragons movie account and be like, hey, everybody get hyped about what's coming?
Well, it depends on if you're monetized.
It's like, and it's two different.
No, it is interesting. Yeah, if you're monetized,
two different ways to look at it.
I know with like Star Wars fan films, you cannot make money off of them. I imagine they're all like that because I've looked into making Star Wars fan films like relatively seriously.
Yeah.
And thought about like, okay, how do I recoup this money? Because it's going to cost time, money, and effort. Like, and you can't. But Disney has a specific thing. Like, they will let you do it as long as you're not making money. Which I guess is similar to this, like,
but also define monetizing in the modern age, because like, I can make a YouTube film when the whole point is that I'm maybe a prop maker. I 3D print shit. So I'm driving you to my web. Then we're in a. I love gray areas, so I can go on forever.
That's exactly how I figured. Like,
I'm selling you the Han Solo blaster. I actually don't give a shit about the fan
movie.
film.
The movie is just an ad. Yep. That's like 100% the way that I thought about it. Like, you'd have behind the scenes, like, this is how we film, this is how we make this props, this is how we do this, and you can monetize that, but you can't monetize on the movie.
Yeah.
But like, so I don't know, like, because again, I see where this comes from, like, from a business standpoint. Like, I'm in manufacturing, like, we make a product. If somebody was making something similar that like worked with our product, we would immediately be like, nope, you cannot do that. We plug into the grid, so you can't just like start plugging stuff into it. But like, I don't know, it's weird. If somebody started selling like our spare parts and said like compatible with this major brand's power inverters, or like, we would get our lawyers right away.
Yeah,
right.
Honestly, like the pragmatic discussion is, this is a logical business sense. This is a way for a company to increase their value to their shareholders, to whom they are accountable to.
Yeah,
that's the reality. But it does have real world ramifications for a lot of people who built their businesses off of this. And even like with the stuff we're doing, we have to think more clearly about what we monetize and how, and where that's driven from. Because if it's driven from Dungeons and Dragons specifically, like, now do we have to opt into this OGL, and do we have to like what happens there? And in my video that I commented, or where I did a little commentary on it, like I would much rather just create system agnostic content that can plug into a range of systems rather than focus anything on D&D at this point.
Yeah.
And you think that is that specifically in reaction to this move? Well, yes. I feel like it's a power struggle at this point.
Yeah, and also like I kind of felt this way generally because there's like Monster of the Week is amazing, the Fate system's amazing. There's so many cool rule sets that it's just like, well, if I only need certain core elements to make it fit to this game, we can provide that.
Yeah.
How much of like just the core of kind of RPGs and the concept in general relies on that old license? I saw a meme, and I call it a meme because it was an infographic, but I don't know if it's accurate.
Yeah.
But it basically was a screenshot from Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, like menu system. And I think they were calling out how they had used the phrase 2-weapon fighting in like a description. And they said like, what's Disney going to do when faced with the ramifications of the new license? Because this would be in violation. Yeah. And now Disney owns Star Wars, which means they own this game. And this game wasn't made by Disney back in the day anyways, which is another thing. But, so one of the things I'm wondering about is like, isn't everything, how much is actually based on it? And how much can you even own some of the concepts that they will attempt to? I haven't read the whole thing, but like companies do this shit all the time. They're going to be like, well, you can't say things like 2-weapon fighting anymore. And then someone's going to have to be like, but that's a common phrase. And they're like, but it wasn't before we wrote it in a book in the 80s.
It's tricky.
And then you get into very, very agree.
Yeah. Like, and that book,
that's true.
They just bought the property that has been bought because like,
because the only thing worth anything anymore is intellectual property.
Yeah, D&D's been owned by like 4 different major corporations, and they've all and none of them,
and none of them have actually ever just made modules that everybody wants somehow over all this time. It could have been fixed if you guys just hired a bunch of fucking writers that were writing for these indie companies.
Exactly, because that's expensive. So they were just comfortable and like to let other people do it. because it worked.
Yeah, they were selling miniatures. They were selling other like peripheral related or auxiliary products. And also, we've been playing 5th edition basically since its inception. Like, look how it's evolved over the time. Like, they've been working on the product, they've been creating expansions, but they have with Wizards of the Coast specifically, it's not a very large company. So they have a finite amount of resource to dedicate to this one product in their portfolio among so many others. So now that Hasbro is able to inject a lot more resource, with that comes that trade-off of like corporate fucking vileness that is leading to some of this stuff. But again, just like trying to figure out how this is going to change, just like what everyone's doing in this arena of like third-party content, because obviously it's a gap that needed to be filled because people are filling it in libraries of content. So like, I'm just really curious what's going to happen afterwards.
I think I'm not happy about it. I still want to like read the whole thing and a lot more about it, but I think my gut instinct is like, if you do this and then do not follow up with a very robust team of people to offer what you were trying to shut down, it's just a dick move. And it doesn't matter if it's business. There's rarely reasons for just purely dick moves.
All right, let's just start our Pathfinder 2.0 now. Let's start working on that framework system so that when one D&D comes out and it fucking sucks and this OGL is killing everybody, we've already got the alternative. Hey, come play our +1 system.
I mean, that's what everyone will do. And the thing is, like, all of the indie publishers, that's a lot of the joy people get out of the hobby is all of the crafting, I guess I'll call it. You know what I mean? So like, it's like making, I don't know. Are you taking, never mind. That's a terrible fucking analogy. I'm not even going to make it. But like, I don't know. It's so much of just loading a shotgun and pointing it directly at both of your own feet that I don't understand why, other than
there's a
money, which they're also not cashing in on. So
there's a concept in like finance and economics, I guess, that like I don't know the name of it, but let's say like you have like 100 people, you have a thing that like a sports stadium that fits 100 people, and your tickets are $10 a piece. We'll do math to make all of this make sense. So 100 people times 10, you're making $1,000 a game. If you raise your tickets to $20, you make $2,000. But let's say a fourth of those people don't come because they can't afford it anymore. So 75 times 20, right? Wait. So
25 times 20 minus.
So there's like
the 2,000.
There's acceptable rates of loss.
Exactly. You can still make more money by having less people show up to your main thing. But then this bleeds out to, okay, well, now you have less fans who are buying less stuff overall. So does that more you made on like your main event, does that equal what these other people who didn't come would have purchased, in snacks and stuff
and
like
they need
that.
to have that stuff available too. That's the other thing. Like,
you also
need to have the inventory.
If you have a baseball stadium with no hot dogs, like what the fuck are you doing?
Well, that also, I think, segues perfectly into my other main thought about the whole thing, which is probably my only and last thought, is like, do they realize how much of that is actually fueling new players and stuff?
Exactly.
Like, my wife would not have sat down to learn a single thing about D&D if Steamforged Games hadn't made Animal Companions as a module. Like, that is a direct one-to-one correlation of money that went into D&D's pocket. Now, mind you, some of it went into independent creators' pockets as well.
Yeah.
But the potential for that is so great. The only downside is that now that she has come in and is interested enough, she doesn't have anything that they can sell her. There aren't official D&D dice. There aren't official things that. So I don't think that the idea that, oh, we're going to make, AAA video games or movies or stuff like that, because that's how people bring you into new IP in any other group, isn't going to work, because that's all fan service.
Yeah.
So if you're doing fan service movies and fan service toy lines that aren't even playable toys, they're actually dice, which is a cool concept, but not for my kid. I want it. My kid wouldn't want to play with that. You know what I mean? Like
dice transformer. This seems like
it's not bringing new people in.
Yeah.
So you're kind of, I don't know, you're putting a tourniquet on a very important like artery for yourself.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting point, because again, in the thing that they talked about in the like press briefing that I covered a couple weeks ago, that one of their strategies was they need to find more on-ramps to people like joining the D&D community and then hopefully purchasing, which again, if you want to purchase something, you got to make something. You got to make like more than just a book every couple of months. You got to make something I want. So there's your first problem. Make some stuff. But these are on-ramps. They are squashing their on-ramps. You mentioned, I mean, anecdotal, but how many people do that? I mean, we played a long time ago, but we restarted playing mostly because of Adventure Zone. Like Billy and Jake and Mac started listening to the Adventure Zone and sent it to me, and I was like, hell yeah, I want to play the starter set. This sounds fun as hell. So I bought the starter set. Like,
yep.
And I don't know if something like content creators like the Adventure Zone will eventually fall into where they can't do this, because I mean, I'm sure they're making money off of it. They sell their own like shirts and pins and bags and all sorts of stuff with like
comic books too, animated.
They've got
novels.
Like, so they are making money off of what is essentially, I mean, it is just a homebrew Dungeons and Dragons game that started out as just a Dungeons and Dragons game.
Like the start of the Dungeons and Dragons.
The start, like, yes. So like these are on-ramps. That's what that was like the trigger point that re-energized this group into D&D.
I mean, how many players have come from just Critical Role and Adventure Zone alone?
Exactly.
Like,
right?
Which I feel like they in their own merchandising have acknowledged in the last 2 years, those two in particular in major ways.
And Penny
Arcade. They have been authored. They have authored modules. Both of those shows.
Yep. Penny Arcade has also.
Oh, really?
Yep.
But the amount of cool like Critical Role shit that has come out, miniatures and all kinds of stuff that like I want and everything.
But
it's just proof of what you're saying.
It's 100, because that's now. So they're willing to do deals with those guys because they're all big shit.
Right.
But none of them
really they would have never got there.
They never would have got there. Yes, they never would have got them. The McElroys would still be doing My Brother and Me. Critical Role guys would all just be doing their voice acting. Like
home game. Yeah, they would just be playing at home. Just
their home game, yeah. And like Penny Arcade would be making like comics. Like they would not have been contributing to this, because if the OGL was the way it is now, or the way it's supposedly going to be, if it was like this in 2000, all of these people would have looked and said, no, don't bother.
No thanks. It's not viable.
Yeah, no thanks. Yeah, it's not. Why would I commit my time and effort into something that I'm not going to be able to benefit from?
And
then Critical Role would have never made an Amazon show, thereby proving that you might be able to make a feature-length film.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
And it's good. Like, there's some things I don't like about it, but overall, Vox Machina was very good. So I think what's really vile about it, like, I understand, like, sure, Wizards maybe should get some extra money with a license for fair trade. Like, they are creating the foundation. Yeah, I totally business needs to be done. What makes it really vile is the like termination and IP ownership transfer policies that it has. So they can cancel within 30 days, which is abrupt for a business. So like, if you're driving your revenue from, and you're suddenly your source has 30 days, you have 30 days notice to like, what do you do? Yep. And then if they do that, anything that you've made under this gaming license is the ownership of Hasbro/Wizards, and they can continue selling it or using it as their own. That's fucking
so they give you just enough time to spin up something before they can steal it. And that is, it's totally insidious, or just a 100% poison pill.
Right.
It's an attempt to look not insidious while making something that any reasonable person would decline.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's honed in on the fact that it stinks. It seems vile, but yeah,
that is messed up.
Yeah,
I didn't know that part of it. That is super messed up.
So let's say just for us, like, you know, if we started selling AOA shirts and so, like, they could come in and be like, no, that like AOA is ours because you built it on the framework of D&D.
Yeah, if we had joined this OGL, if we had opted into it, and we had made so yes.
But it's
so do you have to opt into the OGL? What keeps me from just, you know, as an independent whoever that's doing what I'm doing, just being like, no, thank you on the new OGL?
I mean, if you get big enough, they'll stick their lawyers on you.
Well, that's what I just don't understand. It's like, how much can you keep me from having a PDF that says roll dice in this way and then react to it? Like, how far can you go? Yeah. Like, where's this rabbit hole?
I mean, I think we're gonna find that out.
I wonder if there's a way to still opt into the existing OGL for like 5e and the SRD, because I mean, if you just stick with 5th edition SRD, you can build whatever you want from that.
Well, but this replaces. I thought some commentary that this replaces all others.
If you opt into this one, it retroactively. But if you're still on the existing one, I don't know for sure if they can just
decline the new update.
Yeah,
I do not want iOS 11. Thank you very much.
Stay here in this safe. Yeah,
I'll stay.
But that might also prohibit you from doing anything new, like with 1D&D. That might be the trade-off.
Interesting.
I don't know. I have to do some more research there.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, none of our people being very excited about 1D&D either, so that might be fine.
It's interesting because there's facets of it. They're basically like gameplay mechanic tweaks that make sense, like the reaction for Bard inspiration that we talked about earlier today. Like that's a 1D&D mechanation. There's like small rules tweaks, but it's like that's not a new system, guys. Like
it's so weird. It feels like Overwatch 2. Like, oh, we're making an expansion, but it's a second one, but it's not. Just please play.
Yeah. But it's full price.
Don't ask questions.
It's full price. Yeah, it's so weird. It's such like an in-between step. Like we've had new systems, make a new system and make it like, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a game designer. So like, have we tapped out like everything? Is there new systems to be had?
What is
they were just written by people other than wizards. So they have to steal them back.
But like, there's some like Monster of the Week has a very fun niche and a very cool focus. Like if you're going to make changes to what's already a very good system in 5th edition, what value is really being added there from either like a gameplay, storytelling, like what's happening, what's changing that's going to elevate the game that requires a new, or do you just need a new layer of makeup to make more money off of it and call it something
exactly
fresh?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, are we just reskinning and doing minor tweaks, or is this a real new thing?
And what is new then? Like,
exactly. Because again, that's Overwatch 2, like it's basically an expansion. Like the game is the same.
You know, that's another good point, Chris. Like the other thing they don't offer, and I thought 1D&D might be headed that way when I first heard about it. And also I think makes a lot more sense than trying to do this big IP play is like, why don't you make an online platform? Make a Roll20. Do what other companies do, which is all shitty enough for little guys who get stomped all the time. But it's like you have a good idea, and then a Google or a Hasbro or whoever sees it, and they're like, oh, well, I got an engineer sitting over here who could spin that up in 2 days, and then we'll dump $1 million into advertising and make $6 million and just put you out of business. Or like they could also do down and dirty, just like corporate like piracy, like normal people, like normal corporate, good old American fuck you in the market.
You know? Or buy it out. Which is also what happens. You got a startup, you're making a cool thing. Cool.
Why does that only work for software?
It's so weird.
Everyone else, it's like attacks them.
Yeah, because like Orc Pub worked wonderful. But got crushed. And like there's not really like a solution to this.
Well, it was interesting too, because that Orc Pub they only really got crushed when Wizards was coming up with D&D Beyond. There's an interesting correlative.
So it is kind of, I mean, it's what Mark was talking about. Basically.
Yes. He was fine because he operated for years untouched.
And that's like super crappy, but at least that is I feel like fair play within the shitty,
Yeah.
They were
economy that you have to exist in.
Yeah, right. And he operated with impunity because Wizards didn't have anything that did that. And now that they're trying to make that, they don't want that competition. But like, I'm not going to pay for D&D Beyond to make a fucking character sheet. Like, I'm just not going to do it.
Right. No. We'll go back to using graph paper like our forebears before us.
Forefathers.
So like, it's another one of those, like, if you have it free, it drives people. Like, I would at work, and downtime, just make character sheets like all day. Like, it engages me with your product and makes me excited about it.
They cost you $2.99 each now, and you can only save them on their website.
I'm not going to do it.
You're thinking about the brand all the time. Like, you're thinking about Dungeons and Dragons all the time. So
and having that makes me not make Monster of the Week sheets or Fate sheets, whatever, like, or name your, so like it engage, like you said, I'm thinking about the brand. It engages me with your IP. Do you make money on it? No, but is that valuable? Yes,
because they're going to make money eventually. That's the thing. Like, you create a lifetime consumer, a lifetime like loyal brand follower. They're gonna buy new books from you.
But that's not new age. That's not new age, new media marketing talk. That doesn't exist anymore. You don't build loyal customers from the age of 0 through lifetime anymore.
Yeah,
but it's like,
you build your furniture out of composite wood, and you do online subscriptions.
Margins. Yeah. But with games like Dungeons and Dragons, where the fabric of it is built from the community, is built from the nostalgia, is built from very grassroots sort of place. These almost feel like an affront when you start injecting these bold corporate plays.
Yeah, it's I think tone deaf, you said very early on, is a very good word for it, because, and I know no one cares probably at the super high levels who are making these decisions, but it feels slightly personal to be like, why don't you guys keep us alive for 25 years?
Yeah,
and then will show, and it's not the same people who have been saying that message, but that's not how it feels to the fandom at all.
Yeah. Know where it came from.
Right. And again, like, even if they're just keeping their own like inner logic, if you're looking for on-ramps, these are your on-ramps. Like, you're smashing them instead.
Yeah.
And you're like attempt to consolidate, you are cutting off that lifeline. It is better. So not only is it like tone deaf, I would assume also not good business. Like, I don't know if this is going to end up at the end of the day making them more money than either they have now, or that it would cost them to implement and enforce.
Well, they are a publicly traded company, so we will be able to see in the coming time.
Yeah.
But Hasbro is Wizards itself.
Wizards is owned by Hasbro.
Yeah, but Hasbro has so many other, like,
well, and see, that's the scary thing, I think, is that you extrapolate it so far that they don't care. I think that's what people are upset about. I think this means that Hasbro does not care about the community, which means they probably don't care all that much about D&D, which means it's going to maybe be withering and dying in people's minds, because it's like
they care in so far as how much money can it make them.
Exactly, but
also just the thing is, like, they are probably not looking at the side of the market, the consumer side. They're looking at the investor side.
Yes.
So they're like, they can do this and then tell investors their stock will go up, and that will be good enough for them. So if Dungeons and Dragons doesn't actually bring in more revenue and dies off because of that in the long run, won't matter to Hasbro. It's
just a bad investment.
I feel like that's what's like, I feel like it makes it scary to me. It's because, like, oh, are we going to lose the whole thing just because you got a little greedy, even though you didn't build this thing yourself anyways, you just bought into it.
Yeah. And thankfully we've still got our books. They're not going anywhere. So even if it does go the way of the dodo, like, the game still
doesn't matter.
That is an interesting, like, we have the relics basically. But I agree, Mark. Like, I feel like you can tell Hasbro does not care about D&D because it's not a big money generator for them. Like, so again, I keep harkening back to that video I made not too long ago.
It does generate a substantial amount of revenue. Like,
not
D&D brand.
Not nearly as much as like Magic the Gathering does. So in that conference that I don't remember either of the names, like the CEO of Wizards and there's somebody from Hasbro, they spent it was like an hour-long thing, and they spent like 10 minutes talking about D&D, and the rest was all like, you can tell what they focus on. And like, sure, it's bringing in a lot of money, and if it were its own business, that's successful. But when you are a revenue stream and they're, like bar graphed of like how much each one's bringing in, they're low on the side. So like,
and I know I used to be into Magic a lot and haven't been collecting since like I was a kid, but like I think even the Magic community is a little up in arms about what is being heralded by recent changes in the last couple of years. Like the cadence of sets has changed, the number of cards that each set has changed.
Yeah,
like things, and I've seen comments on that where people are like, money, like this is a total money play, and I can see it. And Magic's been doing fine.
Right? Yeah, it is absolutely the main driver for Wizards. Absolutely.
Like, can you think of a card game that surpasses Magic in any way, shape, or form? Like playership, mythos,
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Memes, like
might have come
maybe
like a very, very far distance behind.
Like but Pokemon has like appeal, but I don't think that when you talk about actual playership of people interacting with the game, I think it's more collector story for Pokemon.
Mm-hmm. Magic is much more active
tournaments, like you know, like kind of created the whole idea of competitive card game tournaments on a national and global scale. And even that property, they're like, let's milk this shit.
Seriously, it doesn't need milking. Well, here's the thing. Like, there's some really awesome benefits to some of this stuff. Like the Magic the Gathering D&D crossover was so much fun.
Loved it. It sucked me back into Magic so hard.
And I spent a decent amount of money buying fucking digital cards, not even real things, but fake cards to play on this online game. I love Magic. I'm happy to do it. That's money that I am happy to spend.
Yeah.
I was there with you. Yep.
But you didn't have to do any tricks to get me there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Make a good product.
Make a good product.
And engage your fan base.
You had a perfect cross affiliation or Venn diagram of things I like.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great marketing tactic. But this type of stuff where it's just like not providing any value to anybody, right?
Yeah.
Like with this OGL, it feels icky.
Yeah.
I'll gladly shut up and take my money if you do cool stuff like D&D Magic crossovers. But don't fuck my wallet in those other more insidious ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're all about the fan service. Like,
right?
I will do the crossovers. Easy. I'll do the multiverse, however you want to do it.
Not a fan of the Dice Transformers, but I see where you're going there.
I don't even know what you guys are talking about.
I still kind of want one.
D20s,
honestly,
that transform into robots. Basically,
they're like the size of a baseball or something. They're like a toy.
I think they're called Dicelings or something.
Okay, well, Dice Transformers, Dicelings.
D&D Dicelings. They're like the new official toy to go with the movie.
Cute.
Yeah, but look at it and tell me, what is that? Because it's not a toy. That's a collector's.
It's a tchotchke, yeah.
Like that's made for me, for like a 35-year-old dude who plays Dungeons and Dragons. That's not gonna, a 6-year-old's not gonna walk by and be like, cool, a dragon diceling. I'm now gonna play this role-playing game.
Roll Ranger.
So no, that is an interesting business point. Like, you're making things to engage your current fan base, but you are not making things to increase that fan base. And the people who were increasing your fan base, you were trying to squash.
Yep. They got it all backwards, I feel like.
They've got it all backwards.
They've got all the right plugs in the wrong receptacles.
And it's going to start a huge disaster dumpster fire that I guess we'll just have to watch and see what happens.
Yeah.
But I think that's probably all we can say about this topic. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm good.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks. I was recording this whole time if you didn't
nice
glean that, by the way. So
figured
we do have a nice little episode there, but appreciate your guys' just thoughts on that because this is a really interesting.
It's like every week something big's coming out now. Yeah, and none of it I'm excited about.
And this was a leak too. This was not something that they were trying to be forthcoming about.
Oh, see, that's even worse though.
Does that change things?
Although
I mean,
no, I feel like it makes it seem more. It could be a good thing.
You're seeing behind the scenes, so you're seeing their like real thought process.
Intentions, yeah.
But the good news with it being a leak, is potentially they could be like, oh shit, and
they get the blowback now and they course correct. Yep.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't put it past a company that big to be like, whoops.
Yeah, right.
Oops, did we leak our album 3 days early?
You like market test a little bit.
Yeah, you put that, especially with people like with a community like Dungeons and Dragons, like a bunch of rules lawyers, and you're about to change the way the rules and laws work. Good luck with that.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's.
I watched a video of a guy who literally is a lawyer, and his thing is the rules lawyer, and it was like 20 minutes long, and even through that, I was like, I don't. And that's what I was saying. Like, I think I went too deep because I'm like, I thought I knew what was happening. Now I'm confused.
Like every single person's a big, excuse me, wizards, on OGL page 3 of 1.0.
And that is the thing, like board game players, tabletop, like we argue semantics as a hobby. Like,
this shit is fun.
We'll spend more time poring over the rules than we do playing them.
We did earlier today.
Yes. All right, so I think on that note, we'll finish our talk on open gaming license. That's it for this week's episode. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, and head over to +1togaming.com for more live discussions, actual plays, character creation tips, and more. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.